Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. I'm Wilbert D, and I just saw 6 of the 10 PPP entries. This is Phil on Films. I saw 6 of the 10. I actually had time to see all 10, but I didn't want to. I've explained this before, but the PPP is kind of this weird compromise festival that was set up because we couldn't have the MMFF that we wanted. So the FDCP set up this thing, kind of contrived this whole.
No, we're celebrating the film industry in the middle of the year and we're working with the cinema owners.
Where actually what they were doing was creating a ghetto where independent film couldn't really thrive, and one film out of 10 ends up making money. So it's a bad festival and I don't like supporting that. But I saw 6 because I was curious. So here we go. First film I saw was LSS, directed by Jade Castro. Now, as you know, I've been hyping up this film, or I don't know, hyping up is a weird word because I didn't know anything about it really, except Ben and Ben or whatever, and it was directed by Jade. But I do like Jade, and I think my belief in him has been justified. The film tells a story of a guy and a girl who meet on a bus. It turns out they have the same taste in music, and then the film splits them apart for half the movie. Because that's the weird thing that this film does. This is a really interesting film that seems to work as a postmodern commentary on the Filipino rom-com. It's almost a reaction to this whole trend of Filipino rom-coms where you just have two characters who stick together for the entire movie and just take a bus trip together and whatever. Tadhana, basically. The trend that Tadhana set off. LSS is the complete opposite. They meet on a bus and then they don't meet each other again for a very, very long while, which is an interesting way to do things. What it does is it lets life intrude into this story of two people who are clearly meant to be with each other. They deal with their issues first before finally ending up seeing each other again. And it's a sweet little movie that benefits from the density of its narrative. It makes some really interesting directorial choices. It looks different from every other rom-com that you've seen. There's a lot of smooth camera movement, fewer cuts than you're probably used to. And if you're a fan of Ben and Ben, well, okay, go ahead. Ben and Ben are there. They say all their songs are there. You'll have fun. It's Ben and Ben. I gave it 4 stars. The next film I saw, I was invited to a screening of Pagbalik, which is in the showcase, which is another ghetto within the ghetto of the PPP. A selection of films that won't get shown in every cinema because, we don't deserve to see all these movies. Anyway, Pagbalik is the story of a woman who is an OFW. She comes back to her hometown. She meets with her mother and her young son who haven't seen her in a while, and things get really complicated because, being an OFW is tough. And that's essentially what this film is about. It's the effect that having a mother so far away has on this family, on the older mother, on the younger son who has been stuck taking care of the older mother, and the mother who doesn't feel a connection to her family anymore. And in theory, this is all very nice stuff. But this film keeps making these strange narrative choices that seems to be about trying to inject excitement into the story that is essentially just 3 people who are very awkward around each other. I wish the film had the conviction to just let it be about 3 people who are not being very comfortable around each other anymore because of the situation of being an OFW. What it does is it sets up a twist, and it's a very strange twist that oh wait, you mean all this time people could have been talking about this thing and it would have fixed the relationship, but instead you had them not talking because you wanted this twist. Anyway, it's that thing. It's one of those things where you feel this is directed by Cesar Trinillo. This is her directorial debut. This, I think, also her. I don't know if it's writing debut or whatever, but you do get the sense that it's a first film. It's very, very much a first film, and there's a profound misunderstanding of how stories can work. This is a 1.5 star movie. The biggest hit of this festival is June Lana's The Panti Sisters, starring Paolo Ballesteros, Christian Bables, and Martin De Rosario as 3 cross-dressing brothers/sisters who are called back by their father, played by John Arcilla, because he wants them to act like men and give him a grandson. And in exchange, whoever gives them a grandson or granddaughter, I guess, will end up with a 300 million peso inheritance. The first half of this movie is basically these three characters being really mean to each other and to the people around them. Because, I don't know, I guess gay people are mean to each other or whatever. It's like, the film has some really important things to say about inclusivity, about treating people with respect, about prejudice and all that, about old generations who still have regressive views on gay people. And it gets to that, but it takes a long while because its comedy is still based in old ways of thinking. The comedy feels old. It feels like it's from another generation of gay cinema that I thought we were past, because Junlan already did Die Beautiful, because the person talent did Born Beautiful. Among the drag dramedies that stars these actors, this is kind of the weakest film. I think precisely because it tries to be more mainstream. Because, I don't know, because in the PPP you can't really be free, I guess. It gets better in the back half when characters start being kind to each other. It finds another gear, basically, of its comedy that isn't so based on these three people being really mean to each other. But yeah, for the most part, it's actually really hard to care about them because they're so bad to each other and to like random people around them. And we've seen better. We know Junlana can do better. But it's a hit, so what do I know? I am terrible at this job, I guess. 2.5 stars. Cuddle Weather is a film set in Poblacion. Its two lead characters are sex workers played by Sue Ramirez and RK Bukaching. Sue Ramirez is the veteran who's trying to get out, and RK is the newbie who just landed there and is trying to get into sex work and is basically looking to Sue as a mentor. It's interesting. Though, as somebody who has hung around Poblacion a lot, who grew up in Cubao around sex work, I can say that this film is very, very careful to not really reflect the reality of sex work. It's actively trying to keep out the tougher aspects of it. I'm not going to say that it goes as far as to glamorizing it, but also in being so conservative, ultimately conservative about its ideas. It just feels very sanitized and not very realistic. But I will say, apart from that, the drama of it is actually kind of solid. It's well constructed. The emotions are already there. It's just that I don't believe the world around them. I wish the film could let the world around them in a little more so that the narrative arc that they're trying to convey actually gets some more weight. I will say that I also think RK Bukaching is really, really excellent in this. Sue Ramirez is good also, but I think this movie really belongs to RK. The reason that I'm kind of positive on this movie is because RK Bukaching comes into this movie like with this powerful, earnest kind of farm boy act that's like so against type for him. It really, really works, and I think it's a performance that's kind of worth seeing, even if I'm not super in love with this movie as a whole. 3 stars. Next up, Lola Igna by Eduardo Roy Jr. This is about an old woman, a 108-year-old woman in the province. The town around her is trying to get her an award, an international award, to be recognized as the oldest living grandma in the world. Her family is trying to take advantage of that. The whole town's economy starts to be built around visiting this woman who doesn't really care that she gets awarded. In fact, she says that like the one thing that she's looking forward to doing left in life is dying, which is a interesting way to do it. Also, like she has a great grandson that she's never met who goes to the town and stays with her and learns about her, and we learn about a fraught relationship with the great granddaughter who is his mother. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie. A lot of it is really, really nice. Eduardo Roy has built a reputation on creating these found films, usually set in poverty, usually about really sad subjects, stuff like birthing hospitals and teenage street children who are also parents or whatever, and it's all really sad. This film kind of shows off that the director still has a lot of tenderness in him. He isn't fully broken down by the despair that this world brings. It still acknowledges that there is some systems that dehumanize people going on in this town where capitalism and the seeking out fame basically turns this old woman into a commodity, even though all she wants to do is, I don't know, die. I guess there's a strong sense of humanism in this that really shines through, mostly through the lead character, who is, even though she openly says that she wants to die, is clearly somebody who cares about the people around her, and it's kind of pretty wonderful. I've heard like this film has been rejected by festivals abroad, and I can almost see why. It feels very parochial in a way that I actually really like. It feels very Filipino. I'm not sure its pleasures translate to foreign festivals, but yeah, it's great that this film is in the PPP. I wish more people would see it. 4.5 stars. The last film I saw is Watch Me Kill by Tyrone Asierto. Jean Garcia plays an assassin. She's assigned to take out this man who found a diamond in a river, and she finds a girl in his jeep, and stuff happens. It's kind of this very bleak modern western set in the northern Philippines. A lot of it is just staring at landscapes and staying in a house. I will say there are many good qualities to this film, but I do have a major quibble about it. There was an element in this film that I really don't like, and it feels like it was added in just to be clever instead of really thinking about what this story calls for. There's a kind of this really straightforward, elegantly told story that adds in just a layer of unneeded nonsense, basically, that kind of actually takes away from the tone of the film. And I really don't like it. And you might be able to get over it. I absolutely couldn't. But yeah. Even then, I do have to acknowledge the strengths of this film. There are really strong directorial choices all the way through. This is a modern western. You can hear it in the soundtrack. That's what they're going for. This kind of like jangly kind of thing. But it's the most interesting thing about it is how it really resists against making the violence gratuitous. Like its lead character is a hitman. It's an assassin. But like the violence feels very measured, very controlled. And what little violence it shows us is meant to show us the horror of what's happening. She's not super cool, she's not John Wick. She's just somebody who happens to have a gun and he just shoots people in the head. It's very clinical, and the impact of it is stronger than if she was a ninja, I guess. There's this kind of tinge of LA film school to the whole thing. Like it doesn't quite feel Filipino. But I can't knock it for the strength of its choices anyway, except for that one thing, which I really do not like. But that's one of my hang-ups, and I don't know. Other people seem to like it more than I do. I do have to acknowledge how strong, how elegant the direction of this film is, and how good it actually looks. It gets a lot out of those landscapes. 3.5 stars. So yeah, I didn't see any more films. I'm sorry if you wanted to know my thoughts about Open, but I can't do another Andoy film. I'm sorry if you wanted to know what I thought of Circa, but I don't know. It looked like another Adolf Alex film, another quiet black and white film. It was probably gonna be okay, but I wasn't super curious. I'm sorry if you wanted me to review I'm Elenia L, but you knew I wasn't gonna do that. And I'm sorry if you wanted me to review G, because nobody's going to review G. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. But leave your thoughts. If you have a review for those films I didn't review, I genuinely want to know what you think. Leave a comment down there or ask me a question. Do all those internet things. And until next time, goodbye internet. I don't want the PPP to be a thing anymore. One more.